Hey everybody, and welcome back to Indie Corner. Today, what wears a hat, is white, and walks like a drunk? It's not Sean Long, but we'll find out in a review of Human: Fall Flat. Human: Fall Flat is simply put a physics-based 3D puzzle game in which you control Bob, a faceless character with a drunk swagger to his walk. You're tossed into a dreamlike world with very little instructions in what to do aside to keep on progressing. It's easy to jump right into the game and you don't get bottlenecked with tutorials or hand-holding. In fact, the game will offer some radio boxes to help you explain certain parts of the game, but it's entirely up to the player if they choose to pick them up and view them, and honestly, that's how all tutorials should be. The game's controls are quite straightforward. Assuming you use a controller, you'll use the left joystick to move around, the right joystick to look around, and the left and right triggers to reach out with your left and right sticky hands, respectively. There's also a play dead button for turning into a useless sack of human. Controlling Bob, while easy, doesn't offer any tight controls, which is part of the game's charm. Bob will walk forward at a sluggish rate as though he's had a bit too much to drink. Interacting with puzzles will also be slightly inaccurate as you have to move the camera up or down to have your hands reach at different heights. It's quirky, it's off, but it does lend itself to some humorous gameplay, especially if playing the game with some friends watching. If you're on your own, however, the quirky controls can grow old fast. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes, the puzzles. Human: Fall Flat offers 6 very different worlds with their own style of puzzle challenges. The first half are fairly easy and are more for players to get introduced to the game, while the later half will offer a lot more challenges and take a bit more time to get through. Puzzles range from pushing a button to putting a box on a button to using physics gameplay to pry bars open or use tools in the environment. I'll admit that in some of the later levels I did get stumped for a while on a few puzzles. The major drawback to the game's puzzle is the tediousness of the controls, as mentioned before. The controls eventually start feeling like an obstacle between what I, as the player, want to do and what the game is actually doing. It's cute and funny at first, but when you start sinking some significant time to setting up a solution only to have it fail because of the quirky physics, it can get really frustrating. The atmosphere of each level is supported with a subtle soundtrack which fits perfectly for the game's setting. The music is beautiful, calm, and appropriate for the puzzle and explorative nature of the game. After playing a level for a while, the music will fade out, leaving the player in silence with minor sound effects. It really adds to the game's atmosphere of being alone in the vast world. I don't usually comment on game menus, but I feel Human: Fall Flat deserves a nod to its simplistic and elegant menu design. What can I say? I appreciate beautiful menus. Next, there's a nice customization option which lets players customize Bob by painting him however they like. There was a webcam option which I assume lets players paste their face on a Bob, which would have been great, but this bugged out for me, so my Bob remained with a simple sad face. Overall, it's a nice touch to be able to customize Bob, however I felt this mechanic to be a bit clunky in its execution. I couldn't rotate Bob intuitively, and it would have been nice to have a text tool or even an option to import images to paste on a Bob. Regardless, once in game you rarely get to see Bob's face or the front of his shirt, even when panning the camera around, so this feature is a bit of a waste. The game is also said to support local multiplayer, however I was not able to test this feature out, so for the sake of this review, we'll only stick to the single player experience. Overall, Human: Fall Flat is an experience that lasted about 4 hours for me to get through all 6 worlds. Now I was streaming this game as I played it, so I was actually playing with people watching, which I feel made the game more fun, as a lot of the charm of the game is in the quirky nature of seeing how the guy runs around and how he interacts with the environment. If you'd be playing this on your own with no one else watching, you'd find it cute for the first few levels, and then it grows old, especially as the controls are a little bit clunky and they do get in the way of progressing. And that can be very frustrating. Other than that, there's no really story or incentive for the player to keep going through. So I feel that the game does have some potential, it had some good ideas, but it didn't just explore it enough. So overall, Human: Fall Flat gets a 7 out of 10 from me on Indie Corner. It's a good game, worth trying out, but it's nothing more than that. I'll see you guys next time on Indie Corner, and until then, keep on playing indie.